Good morning. I think we're getting on. Good morning, everybody. I think we're live right now. Um, I hope you guys had a good weekend and are awake this Monday morning and have some questions for me. I wanted to just let everybody know I'll be doing this every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're here and if you're able to watch live, that's great. If not, it'll be on the website and you can watch, anytime. But I'd love you to join me live because then you can ask questions, we can interact that way, and I can focus on what is important to each of you. I wanted to start with just some when you join the group, you answer some questions, and here were some of the questions from here are some of the answers from the newest members of the group. This is what they want to get from this group. Support with my separation and help dealing with teenage children, connection with others going through similar circumstances, and insight into how to face all that's coming. Shared experiences, gain understanding, and give and receive support. Community and support. They want hope, a community of people I can relate to. Somebody wanted clarity, ways to move forward, stop feeling sad and stop blaming myself, learn from people's experiences, help navigating the separation agreement and how to deal with the pain and hurt, and learning to trust again. And the reason why I'm reading those are because I think a lot of people in this group really do have similar needs and similar things they want from the group. And I've found that people have been extremely supportive, and I appreciate that. So I just wanted to say that it helps, to help others as well as to get help. And that's one of the reasons that I put this group together, because I know how important that is to know that you're not alone, to know that other people are going through similar things. And it's really powerful when you connect with somebody over something that you're going through that's the same, such as divorce, which is very hard to understand unless you're going through it. Not only am I a therapist and I focus on divorce and co-parenting, I'm a divorce coach. I'm a certified parent educator. I was teaching parenting classes for many years, and I went through divorce myself. So that was almost 8 years ago. When I went through divorce, I realized how little resources and support there is out there, and how really important it is to get that support. So I'm really glad you're all part of this group, and I hope that we can work together to support each other. So what I wanted to focus on this morning was how to minimize the negative impact on children when you're going through divorce. And this is true when you're first starting out with your divorce, all the way through to after you're divorced, years after. You impact your children every day. So the way that you handle this with your children is really important to the way that they come out as adults. And one of the things that, it's extremely important is to not put your children in the middle and of what's going on between you and their other parent. And the way to do that is to have support so that you can vent, you can talk about your feelings, so that you don't have to react to any provocation from your ex. So, and sometimes it's hard. People can be, hi Donna, so glad you're here. People can be really reactive to what their ex says. I've had clients who, they just get tons of negative texts from their ex, and sometimes they can't help themselves to respond. But the real powerful thing to do is to think through what you're going to respond, and sometimes not respond at all. I mean, if you don't have to respond to a provocative text or something that an email or something that they say on the phone, I would not respond at all. And certainly not in front of your children. You know, if your children are anywhere in the house, you think that they don't hear you, but they hear what's going on. So many times I've heard where clients have said things and they thought their child wasn't around, or they thought they were in their room and they're in the room with the door closed, but they can still hear it. You really have to be careful when you say things and do things when your children are anywhere within earshot. Even if your children don't see you and your ex fighting, they feel the tension. So they know what's going on, even if they don't see it. So, you know, and that's very hard, because if one of the parents is intent on conflict, it's very hard not to respond. And so, you know, what I tell people is to just say this one simple line, you know, send it in a text, email, or say it on the phone. Just say, we need to try to get along for the sake of our children. It's better for our children if we can work together effectively. You know, so like that kind of sentence where you're just very neutral, saying we need to try to get along for the sake of our children. So, you know, it might not work the first few times that you say it, but eventually, hopefully it'll sink in that this, you know, you're not hurting me, you're hurting our children when you fight with me. And once you get to the point, I mean, some people just don't get it, and some people will just continually try to trigger you, you know, try to get a response. And we all do it. We all, you know, respond in a not appropriate way occasionally, because we can't be perfect. But the more you can control the way you respond, the better it is for your children and for you. By the way, this is helping you too, because who wants to be in conflict all the time? It's not fun. It doesn't feel good. So the better your relationship, you know, is between you and your ex, the better it is for you and your children. Thank you, Peace. You're very welcome. So that's, you know, the main thing is to not have conflict in front of your children. Try not to have conflict at all, even if that means just ignoring the negatives and focusing on, you know, what positives you have together with your ex that you can work towards. But the second thing is, the second big area is not to speak negatively about their other parent. And I think I've mentioned this before, but if you didn't hear my one of my last Facebook Lives, anything you say negative about your child, about your other parent to your child, they will take internally, because they feel a part of you and the other parent. They most of the time love both you and the other parent. And so when you say something negative about the other parent, it just doesn't feel good to your children, and it actually ends up really hurting them in the end. So be really careful. You know, it's not like you have to lie. You know, let's say the other parent does have some negative traits. You don't have to say, oh, they're perfect, they're wonderful, but you do have to try to, you know, say the positives, along with maybe saying, yeah, well, I understand, you know, your mother does this or your father does that. You know, but look, they have these positive traits, you know, so if you can really balance it, that's helpful for children too. So those are the two main things I just wanted to touch on. Is number one, try to have the best relationship that you can with their other parent. And number two, don't speak negatively about their other parent. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I just realized, is that children do benefit from having a relationship with both parents. And unless there's abuse, I recommend whatever relationship that is, to encourage the relationship with both parents. Okay, so then I just wanted to talk about Kelly made a comment on the group. She said, "We haven't told our kids yet, as we don't know when we will be selling our house, and we are both still living in it. I've been told it's best not to tell them until a few weeks before it happens. It's still so much time for me to take in. I can't fathom them processing it all as well." Okay, so when to tell the children depends on their ages. And Kelly, I'm not sure what ages your children are, but I'd say any child above 5, 6, um, they can tell. I mean, even younger children can tell what's going on. So um, most children can tell how the relationship is between the parents, because to a young child, that relationship is so important. They look to that relationship for safety. And when that relationship between their parents is not stable, if it's conflictual, that is really kind of scary to children. So really young children, I wouldn't talk about it before you're actually way before you're actually doing it, because they don't understand time as much. So under 5 or 6, they don't really understand, what's a week or a month. But once a child is like 5, 6, 7, 8, and you have to know the how mature your children are to make this evaluation. And I can talk to you about this separately depending upon your children. But you really have to know, if they can understand time, and if they can, if they're 6, 7, 8, 9 and above, they can understand that in a month, we're going to be moving out. And you can let them know that that this is going on, that your mother and I, or your father and I are going to be getting a divorce. And I think giving them that month or few weeks in the house to kind of understand it and ask questions and see that you guys are still working together actually could help the situation, even though it's not an ideal situation. But if kids see that you guys are, still giving them breakfast and, helping them with school, and, some of the normalcy is still there before you move out, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to tell them before it happens. Because, they're kind of getting used to the idea of a divorce before they actually have to move. And that gives them a little time to process it. If you tell them right before you're going to move, then they're getting the news of a divorce and the news that they're moving at the same time, which is a lot for children. Plus, the other part of it is that children kind of know what's going on. They know that there's a problem. And a lot of parents are, hi, Victor. A lot of parents are, they'll answer the kids' questions when they say, "Oh, are you and dad getting divorced?" And they'll say no, which is a lie. And then a month later, they have to say yes. That's worse than telling them the truth up front. So I say to parents, try to be as honest as possible. Don't tell them things that you don't have to tell them, but tell them things that they probably have an awareness of. Explain it, allow them to have questions, and tell them the truth as much as you can. There are instances where you don't need to tell them everything, especially if kids are extremely sensitive, or they're not able to handle certain things. Your children, but in general, children are extremely resilient and can handle it better than we think that they can. So if you guys have any questions, Victor said our daughter sensed for weeks that something was happening. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, I think when kids sense that something's happening and you don't tell them, and then you pretend everything is the same, it doesn't feel good for kids. They know that something's off, and it's much better to talk to them about it. So, and the actual conversation, I got to tell you, that was one of the worst days of my life, telling my kids about the divorce. And it is a horrible day. It's a horrible thing. But don't put it off just because you want to avoid it. You have to do it at some point, and I just, once you do it, you can start the point of healing. You can start that process of healing and grieving. So don't put it off too long. That's what I recommend. I have seen families who are able to, interact pretty normally when the parents know they're getting divorced and they haven't told their kids. And if that's the case, I mean, you can do that. I just know in most instances, people can't do that. I couldn't. So, all right. So I wanted to get to some of the other things that people were coming in. People want hope, and I want to talk about that a little bit. Going through divorce is really difficult, and there's very little things as hard. But the positives are, once you get through that whole negotiation, you sign your agreement, you are divorced, and you start your new life, it's amazing. There is so much hope for that time, because I can tell you from experience that, you get a chance to start your life, in a different direction, and you get a chance to make relationships, you make decisions, you get a real opportunity to have a brand new lease on your life. And although I wouldn't recommend divorce to anybody, because it's not fun, I do recommend people who are going through divorce to have hope and to recognize that there's so much that you do have the potential after a divorce that you should be excited about, and know that there is a life after it. So Victor said, telling our kids was horrible, but I've been impressed how they have dealt with it. Our son was very helpful to our daughter in letting her know everything will be okay. That's what I mean about kids being resilient. It is amazing how these kids are so resilient, and that going through divorce actually makes them stronger and more resilient. And I have lots of examples of that. Donna said, my daughters are grown, but I worry how my grandchildren will handle this. Well, so I have to explain about grandchildren. Grandchildren are not the same as children handling divorce, because their lives are not changing. So their lives, I mean, they're changing in the relationships with their grandparents, but their parents are not, their situation with their parents are not changing. So for them, I say grandchildren are fine. Like, I'm not saying that it won't affect them. It will affect them, but don't worry so much about how grandchildren will be, because they have their intact family. Their intact family hasn't changed. So if your it affects you because you're not going to see your grandchildren with their other grandparent. But grandchildren still have their grandparents, and they'll see them hopefully as much as they have. I'm not saying there's no concern. Obviously, grandchildren are impacted, but it's not the same as if their parents were getting divorced. And Victor says, my ex and I don't speak at all about anything. However, a big bonus is that I get to spend incredible quality time with my kids. It's been very special and bonding in a way I didn't expect, but very much appreciate now. Victor, absolutely. That's one of the positives of divorce, is that you get to spend one-on-one time with your kids, and you can really focus on them. I think when people are married, they're always together. So they never look at it as like special time, whereas when you're divorced, you just appreciate that time with your kids so much, and you really get to develop that relationship. I have so many clients where one parent, like a lot of times the father didn't really put in as much to the relationship with his kids, as when he was married, because he didn't think that was his role, or who knows what it was. And then once the divorce happened, he developed this amazing relationship with his children. So these are some positives that people don't realize that come out of divorce. Divorce isn't all negative. I mean, there's, like I said, there's lots of negatives, but there's so many positives. Kids have to learn how to be independent and how to have relationships with two different parents. Sometimes like one parent is able to, have certain strengths, and another parent has other strengths, and they get to have both of those experiences in a very unique way. So although I would not recommend divorce, I do see divorce as such, a positive, potentially positive experience for children. And as I've said before, and I want to just reinforce this, when they look at research studies and they look at parents who are married together versus parents who are divorced and not together, the children who are with the parents who are not in conflict, whether they're married or divorced, come out statistically the same in terms of their mental health and their mental well-being and their ability to survive and excel in life. So it's not, divorce won't be the thing that ruins your kids if you guys can handle it in a good way with the other parent. He said, I'm separated from a narcissist a year, 2 months, but he is terribly alienated, and a 16-year-old twins, and they blame me and won't stay 50-50. Okay, so I would get into family counseling because you really need a professional to come in and to work with a professional who's really got experience with parental alienation. Because, Peace, your ex is damaging the children. Your ex may think that they're damaging you, but they're damaging the children. And the sooner you can get your family into family counseling and focusing on the children, the better, because you don't want this to go on that long. If you get a good, someone who knows how to handle this, it is very difficult to handle, and some narcissists are impossible to handle. But if you can get someone who can handle this, it can really make a difference. And what I would just keep saying to your kids is neither parents should say anything negative about each other. And if either of us says anything negative about the other one, just tell them, please don't say anything negative about mom, or please don't say anything negative about dad. So you're giving them the tools to set boundaries. And so that they know it's not okay to say anything negative about a parent. But Peace, I can also talk to you about that privately if you want, because that's a difficult situation. There are some situations we can't help, like if our ex is a narcissist or they're alienating us, that's really tough. But most people hopefully don't have that situation, and your children can really come out stronger. So it was very good to be with you guys. Thank you so much for commenting. I love having interaction and being able to answer questions. And I'll be here next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And I hope you guys have a good day. Take care.